this one is a bit overdue. I actually did want to respond to this when it came out. Life is what it is. I got busy. But it was really significant and fairly laughable. And I don't want to spoil the surprise, but needless to say, Heel versus whatever his name is makes a complete fool of himself in reviewing the Loki episode. I mean, it's got the usual expected racism and sexism, which is his trademark, but he also dives into just insane amounts of it. How ignorant he is in this is laughable. So let's hear him speak for himself.
As we go into the judge's office from the first episode, who's here to tell Luke Wilson that she's much better than him because she has a vagina and he has a penile. It's a great conversation which lasts forever. And yes, I'm being fucking sarcastic because it was boring. Boring. Sat down talking, boring. Sat down, stood around talking about nothing. Absolutely ruddy nothing. We find out just little scraps that there are various Lokis throughout time.
Well, if you didn't catch it, I do believe Owen Wilson was in Loki. Luke Wilson, his brother, was not in Loki. And that alone should sort of prove that, well, you may not like the MCU, you may not like Disney, but presumably you should just get basic things correct. This has nothing to do even with the quality of the storytelling. You're not even judging the fiction, right? There's no need to invoke, well, how can you have it both ways when you're attacking the mauler with objectivity? It has nothing to do with objectivity of aesthetic statements. You got a basic fact about the production wrong. This is an empirical fact. Luke Wilson does not appear in this episode. Luke Wilson was not a part of Loki. So, yeah, he's not making sense anyway. But on top of this, the comment section, to some degree, was, well, they mostly bought his propaganda. But to their credit, they did note the complete error. But as usual, they start going into their own conspiracy pathways. And some of them even stated as, quote, a fact that Captain America never really cared about race. Race is not in the Captain America comics. No, it's there. In fact, I know for a fact because I read it. There's a two-parter what if issue in 1991. There are two issues which deal with this very explicitly. And even in the normal continuity, this is also brought up quite a few times too. So I don't know what they're talking about. A whole lot of ignorance, but at least some of them were a little bit more tolerant than others. But it does strike me as weird because, again, none of this is relevant. None of this is relevant. Even if we went all the way down with this, that there is, quote unquote, a conspiracy, there is a political agenda. That is utterly irrelevant to judging the episode on its own terms. And his review was just itself terrible. As far as I can gather, he didn't like that they were walking and talking, sitting down and talking, and almost every interaction with a female character, necessarily the male character was feminized, turned into a woman, etc., etc. I mean, this is such an extreme and odd interpretation. Even one of the commenters who agreed with the conspiracy says, that really didn't happen. So, I mean, I understand what it is now. It's just entertainment value for his audience. Like, he's just going to lie through his teeth no matter what is going on. But then when he gets caught red-handed, he's always squirming about racism and sexism against himself. Though I do find, on a final note, that it's really, really disturbing and disgusting for him to bring up the, quote, weight issue and the women on the show being too fat, and he himself is insanely large. I mean, there's no way you can get around. Whatever you think about this person, he is insanely fat and incredibly ugly. But he's judging other people by their looks and appearances. Which I also find puzzling because, according to him, if you judge people by their appearances, you're racist. So him noting the race of other people, that's not racist. If we note his race, that is racist. So, a whole lot of double standards and hypocrisies. Didn't learn much about the MCU. Didn't learn anything about Marvel Comics. Didn't learn anything about the lore. Didn't even prove his own weirdo conspiracy. But to be fair to him, I will make a concession because I actually did make a mistake, which I have not owned up to, because I think it was an honest one. But my Infinity War reviews took for granted that Hugo Weaving was Red Skull. That's actually not true. If you double check on IMDb, it's not even played by Hugo Weaving. So, a lot of people made that mistake. But no, Red Skull is in Infinity War, but it's not being played or voiced by Hugo Weaving. So, interesting. So, again, at least I will admit my mistakes because they're honest mistakes, unlike certain people. But I will still keep giving heel versus Weight Watchers a chance, but I don't foresee that his reviews are going to improve. And there we are.